today we are into our third Sunday talkies sessions organized by Aqua Doctor Solution and Aqua One Center, Kolkata. And its program is also funded by NFDB and managed by Hyderabad Government of India. We are trying to bring galaxy of aqua professionals through this Sunday talkies program among our fish farmers, aquapreneurs, and also the enthusiasm professionals who want to come into fisheries. Today among us, we have Mr. Rajiv Jha sir, who is also a strategic research and technical coordinator for Central Protima Prima Indonesia, CP Prima company from Indonesia. Today, sir will be talking a very interesting topic, which lots of people we need to understand, because as we are into global platform and shrimp plays a major role for our Indian aquaculture system to be boosting up. So sir will be addressing us more on sustainable aspects of shrimp farming, experience with working with CP Prima, and also leading lots of international projects throughout the world. And basically, sir is also from India. So I will be requesting sir to address in Hindi, so that this whole session of information will bring out not only the people who are listening us today, and also it will be uploaded in the YouTube. So if we address it in Hindi more, so we can connect more people to understand about the sustainable aspect of that. So meanwhile, I'll be requesting every participants who are also listening here in the through the Zoom app. There was a small mistake has been done through Google app. So yeah, we just shifted to it, this session to Zoom, and those people will be missing these sessions. You don't worry about the session you are missing. We will be in live in Facebook and also our YouTube channels. So we can directly also can listen it, can follow it up in later on in our YouTube channel also, which is Aqua Doctor Solutions name. So without wasting much time, it's our proud privilege to have with us experts Rajiv Jha sir from Indonesia, and sir will be addressing us today on different aspects of sustainable fish shrimp farming. And on behalf of sir, I will be showcasing sir presentations, and sir will be addressing from there. But meanwhile, I like to request sir to say about little bit about sir experience and the aspect on the topic sir is going to be addressed today. Then we'll be going to the main presentation. Over to you, sir, please.
Thank you very much, दत्तानु जी. नमस्ते सबको. सॉरी मैं हिंदी में प्रिपेयर किया नहीं लेकिन मैं कोशिश करूँगा जहाँ तक बोल पाऊँ. मैं देख रहा हूँ कुछ लोग वियतनाम से भी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं दत्तानु जी.
हाँ सर, यस यस.
तो वो भी हम
Yeah,
लोगों को
please
ध्यान
please
रखना.
go to the English, sir. No problem, sir. Please go ahead.
और बाकी जो आपने बोला बात करने के लिए, तो हम लोग जो ये देखना है जो हम लोग कैसे फार्मिंग को सस्टेनेबल रूप में कर सकते हैं. और जितने जो आजकल जितने मेथड्स आ रहे हैं, whether it is super intensive system or recirculating aquaculture system or nursery farming, this all depends, on the I think it depends on farmer to farmer and the adaptability, how much he can invest, what sort of problem he has, what kind of resources he can get, how much funding he can have. All these aspects are dependent, on adopting these techniques. All have, their profit, or you can say pros and cons. So we have to see what is the most adaptable technique which we can, which we can suggest to our, you know, farmers and technicians to go for. Then what I see on the other side, that when we graduated, we were like looking for job, and it was quite difficult. But now situation is much different, and what I see that even our juniors, or the young students, they have choices whether they should join, multinational company, or they should go for farming, or they should have their own companies like you. So I feel it's a much better situation at least for the youngsters. हाँ, और पूछिए मेरे से जो पूछना है, मैं उसके
Sir, then
जवाब देता हूँ.
we can go directly on the presentation now. I can share the screen for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
तो जो हमारा नमस्कार सभी लोगों को. ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि आप लोगों के साथ आज इंटरेक्ट करने का मौका मिला देवतानु जी के वजह से. मैं उनका और उनका जो aqua डॉक्टर सोल्यूशन है उसको धन्यवाद अर्पण करता हूँ. और देवतानु जी, आपको स्लाइड दिखाना पड़ेगा.
हाँ सर, प्लीज.
विजिबल नहीं है.
Now sir, visible?
हाँ, अभी विजिबल है.
Okay, please.
वो जो हम लोगों ने जो टॉपिक चुना है, रोल ऑफ एडवांस कल्चर सिस्टम इन सस्टेनेबल श्रिम्प फार्मिंग, तो इसमें ज़्यादातर जो हम लोग अभी जो कर रहे हैं या दूसरे लोग कर रहे हैं, हमारे कंटेम्प्रेरी सो कॉल अलायंस, हम लोग उनके बारे में बात करेंगे, कहाँ हो रहा है ये. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. तो फर्स्ट जो topic है, that I would like to talk on the challenges. Next slide, please. So, on the challenges, this slide, I have got from Fishvet Group, from their presentation. This is, I like this slide to show that what is the importance of health and health products, on what we are working. And altogether, there is like $6 billion loss annually worldwide, including fish and shrimp. In that, bacteria actually having the major share, 55% is lost because of various bacterial diseases. Virus about 23%, and others, are having less. Next slide. Then we are, on the recent, next slide, please. Then recently, what we are seeing, that there is this is about shrimp. There is a drastic, drop in import from, especially to China. Why we are talking about China? Because India used to export, I believe still exporting much more to China. And since last year, there is a drastic drop, almost, I think now it's almost 50% drop in shrimp export. And it has a big impact. And this is not only because of the quality or unavailability of shrimp, but also because of the strict regulations from China. That all these, that virus can be preserved at cold temperature or lower temperature for a long time. Like, this is the general practice what we do when we have to preserve virus as a pathogen, even bacteria as a pathogen. We keep it at -20 or -80 degrees, and we keep it for long period, 5 to 10 years or even longer. So when we are packing our shrimp at -18 or -20 degrees, if there is any virus, it is preserved there. So it's not like someone is intentionally putting COVID virus there on the box or inside. But if it is going through anyways, then it will be, preserved. It will not, or you can say it will go in dormant stage. And when they get favorable condition like, temperature like our body, then it will start, multiplying. Okay, next slide.
Yes, sir.
So next slide is about the Indian shrimp production. So what we found that, last year it was almost 30% down compared to 2019. And this year, what I have come to know that other than Corona, there are other natural disasters also, cyclone both
Yes.
in east and west coast. So there could be more. What I know from last 1 month, hatcheries are also shut down. So there will be impact on the production of shrimp. Yes, please. Next slide. Now, now I would like to talk. So there is overall drop in, in the productivity. What I see, uh, as far as Indonesia is concerned, it has less impact. And what I understood, there is like 5% drop in the shrimp production estimated this year. Not drastic as compared to India. तो यहाँ के फार्मर जो हैं वो उतने लॉस में नहीं है, और कोई ऐसा नया डिजीज़ भी नहीं आया है जिसके कारण लॉस हो. सो इंडोनेशिया मोर और लेस स्टेबल है दिस इस साल भी. अभी नाउ वी टॉक अबाउट डिजीज. सो फर्स्ट स्लाइड वुड बी अबाउट EMS or AHPND. So I will not talk much. I think most of the farmers, they already know about these things, so I will just pass by a little bit talking. Why we call it early mortality syndrome? Because it occurs in the early days, less than DOC 50 day of culture, 50 days 50 दिन से पहले होता है, या 5 ग्राम का श्रिम्प के नीचे होगा ये. उसके ऊपर ऑलमोस्ट मैंने अभी तक नहीं देखा है जो कोई ऐसा EMS इन्फेक्टेड श्रिम्प होगा 10 ग्राम का. वो ऐसा होता नहीं देखा. पॉजिटिव हो सकता है बट मोर्टेलिटी नहीं होगा उसमें. और जो मेन सिम्टम्स जो है वो हिपेटोपेनक्रिया और जो स्टमक में होगा. ये जो दूसरा फोटो है उसको आप देख सकते हैं, जो राइट हैंड साइड में है, दाएं, वो हेल्दी हिपेटोपेनक्रियाज है. जो बाएं तरफ है, वाइट वन, श्रंकन वन, भद्दा सा दिखने वाला, दैट इज इन्फेक्टेड वन. एंड यू कैन सी द डिफरेंस. इवन जब हम अपने नाखून से ऐसा कुरेदेंगे वो नहीं कुरेदाएगा, वो बहुत ऐसा स्टिकी स्टफी हो जाता है. मतलब अंदर का जितना न्यूट्रिएंट है जो है सब गायब हो जाते हैं उसमें. अगर आप हिस्टोपैथोलॉजी में देखेंगे तो वहाँ एक भी फैट का या लिपिड का कंटेंट आपको नहीं मिलेगा. मतलब खाना पूरा ख़त्म हो जाएगा. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में थोड़ा ज़्यादा अच्छा से देख सकते हैं क्या कंडीशन होता है श्रिम्प का. यू कैन सी इधर जो बाएं तरफ जो फोटो है उसमें आप देख सकते हैं, जो जो पहले वाला है, hepatopancreas is already shrunken, and gut is completely Deptanu, wherever you feel you need to explain more,
Yeah.
you can.
I will do that, sir. Please.
Yeah. So you can see gut is completely empty, and on the right hand side you can see it's gut is full, and also hepatopancreas looks healthy. ये जो आपको जो फोटो दिखा रहे हैं, दिस इज चैलेंज इन द श्रिम्प, एंड वी आर टेकिंग दिस श्रिम्प आफ्टर 6 hours of challenge. So you can see, if you talk about WSSV, if we do challenge in the lab with sublethal dose of virus, you can see that symptoms will start appearing after 20 hours. Even by you check by real-time PCR, you can get positive after 18 hours to 20 hours of infection, of challenge. But in case of EMS, you can see from 6 hours. You can start seeing the symptoms. Why it happens, that I will describe a little bit later. But it is like this Vibrio, it multiplies or replicates in every 20 minutes. So by 6 hours, it's already in billions. So, so it has, very quick impact. Here you can see we have taken out the hepatopancreas and gut. So lower side, the brownish one is the healthy one, and upper side is the diseased one. You, anyone can easily see the difference. Yes, next slide. Now this is about white faces syndrome. When we talk about this disease, Devtanu, Indonesia has very low incidence of white faces syndrome. On prevalence side, it is less than 2% in our surveillance. So we found it during, I think, during 2013 to 2015, and then we had some changes, even recently, to reduce this white EHP and Vibrio load in the pond, and then we don't have issue with white faces. In the symptoms wise, you can see, I think most of our farmers are familiar with these faces. What we call faces is actually the degraded tissue of the inside, and that comes because it comes from, same as faces, so it is called as faces. Here also, you can see the highest impact of white faces syndrome is on the size variation. You can see this is the live shrimp, what we got from the, sampling, weekly sampling, and you can see, very big size variation, the biggest and the smallest. Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
So we have, this is our trials which we conducted. After that, so we had to, standardize how to obtain the EHP and then how to optimize the challenge method. So it took us a really long time, almost 2 years to 2.5 years to standardize that. And then we were able to challenge, and we can see the, disease occurrence in the lab. Here, the first photo you can see, left side is control shrimp and the right side is challenge shrimp. You can see the size variation. Even the CV values go up to 120 to 130. Compared to that, when you talk about healthy, normal ponds, CV value may be 20 or maximum 30 it goes in size variation. So here you can see the shrimp size after 75 days of culture in a bigger tank, we can get like 0.5 gram to 14 gram or 15 gram of shrimp. This much is the wide size variation. What a farmer will do, he will feed one type of feed, right? Either it is suitable for the bigger shrimp or the smaller shrimp. So what we are showing here in the picture, the smaller size of shrimp in the pond will die. They will not survive. They will have, competition for the food, competition for the space, and they won't survive longer. So what you will see generally in white faces syndrome infected ponds, the survival rate may come down to 40%, because of these reasons. It is not that direct mortality can occur. It will not kill the shrimp, but it will make shrimp so weak that it will die. Another example, I give you our electron microscopic study. Left side is the tubules of healthy, hepatopancreas, and right side is the infected one. Just by, look, anyone can say that which one is looks healthy and fresh. So when you see the damaged one on the right side, even, any medicine or any care will not help it to recover. Even if you want, you keep it, that shrimp alone in a tank, it may take 60-70 days to get recover, and which is not possible practically. So what we see actually in this case, what happens that the ADG start going in negative. So hepatopancreas is the place where all these enzymes and hormones of shrimp, maximum hormones and enzymes will be there. Even the reserve food is there. When that one is damaged, so there will be no secretion of lipase, amylase, or whatever enzymes. So even if you feed them, they eat. You can say, okay, shrimp is eating, but that food will not convert into energy. And when it will not convert to energy, it will not convert into the, that energy will not convert into growth. So you will not see shrimp growing. So this, I feel that we have to understand this, that why we need to have much attention to be paid, that shrimp larvae must be free from EHP or whatever is the quality factors. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah. Next slide, I can go, sir.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
This one about DIV1 or SHIV. So this is also a virus with ये अभी तक केवल चाइना ने रिपोर्ट किया है, और ये जो वायरस है ये दोनों वनामे में और प्राउन में भी, फ्रेश वाटर प्राउन रोजनबर्गी में भी पाया गया है, और ये लिथल है. मोर्टेलिटी कैन हैपन इन 5 to 7 days, and the symptoms are not so specific. ऐसा white muscle दिखता है. So farmers or technicians may get confused whether it is because of oxygen drop, or it is because of IMNV, or it is because of bacterial disease. So it's very vague, and not all the farmers or technicians, they check it by PCR for DIV. I'm not sure India has already started checking or not. Here we are doing in Indonesia, we started since 2 years, especially for hatchery, and we haven't found any cases, so we are free from DIV. Okay, next slide. So next slide, I think, is about IMNV. I also want to talk a little bit about IMNV because I read in some literature and papers that India is, some reports have been found in West Bengal area and also in Gujarat area. I think is from SIBA. So IMNV, we experienced IMNV in 2008, 2008 early, and it was, like, it is a virus which is like, you can say, like, it's immortal, because it can stay viable in water for more than 60 days. So it can travel anywhere, from anywhere to anywhere in the world, and it's a chronic virus. So you will not find very high lethal impact or effect like how it is in EMS or in WSSV. It is highly dependent on the stress. So if there is like full moon period, or even a plankton crash, sudden drop in oxygen, then shrimp get a stress, and after getting a stress, you will see that the white marks start appearing. You can see on the left upper side of the photo. So this is just after the plankton crash. You can see next day we can see these white patches. And why these white patches appear on the first and second segment, or in the fifth and sixth segment? First, it starts from there, because these two segment area are the highly metabolic area where oxygen consumption is the highest. So when it has impact, oxygen deficiency first occurs in that area, and when it occurs, then tissue will die first there. So this white coloration appear because the tissue get um, died there. And in the very beginning you will find symptoms like red tail, the last segment and the telson become red, and actually it looks very beautiful if you look at the live shrimp. uh, I don't want you to get this opportunity to see, because this is really deadly virus. We have experienced this. Second thing, what you can see is the lymphoid organ get enlarged. These are the symptoms from which we can we can presume this is IMNV. And on the upper right side, these are like what we, after plankton crash 2 to 3 days, how much dead shrimp we can receive, so mortality is really high. If there is no stress, your culture period will be normal, you can get more than 70% survival. But if there is a stress, you may get 30 to 40% survival. And this one, the lower right side image, you can see that even the last segment is already detached, from the shrimp. And but you can see gut is full. So in the case of IMNV, what generally happens in case of EMS or in WSSV, where you will find that shrimp stop eating. In case of IMNV, shrimp never stop eating. They will keep on eating. So if we are able to maintain the stress level and shrimp can have healthy environment, even if they are positive with IMNV, we will not have any issues. And survival rate will be more than 70%. So what are the major factors involved to tackle this IMNV? We have to reduce the stocking density, and we have to have more aeration. Yes, next slide, please. This is about WSSV. I think most of us, we know about WSSV. I will not take much time on this. Please go to the next slide. Now, this I want to talk about Streptococcus. When we talk about mixed farming, especially, the problems what we see, in China, that, shrimp died and there are no clear symptoms when you check by PCR, because PCR is a specific tool, so check for WSSV or IMNV or yellowhead virus, all negative, but shrimp have mortality. Later on, it was found that it's a streptococcus, which actually transmitted from tilapia when the farmer was doing mixed farming. And what was found that one clear symptoms, you can see that the hemolymph, it will be, if you take out the hemolymph of infected shrimp or weak shrimp, it's cloudy, it's not clear. Right side is the clear hemolymph, which you can see in the syringe. And mortality rate is very high, like even in 3 days, if you inject streptococcus to the shrimp, it will die in 3 days, 100% mortality. By oral, it goes about 5 to 7 days. So it is as lethal as WSSV. So when we are doing mixed farming with tilapia, we have to be, or we are using fresh water for shrimp farming. We have to make sure that water is not contaminated with the streptococcus. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, this also is same about streptococcus. Uh, yeah. Now we go to the farming uh, system. Next slide, please. So here, what we want to give more emphasis that we have to find the way how to prohibit pathogen enter to the culture environment. This how we can do? We can do by good management practice, disciplined farming, which we call sustainable farming, where we don't have to be greedy. We have to go with the nature, flow of the nature. Then we have to adapt the new techniques and the methods, to adapt. This adaptation will help us to minimize the risk. Then I'm also putting, because we are working intensively on this, on the essential oil or natural products. And the most important thing what you are doing now, Deptanu, is to create the awareness to the farmer how to minimize the risk, how we should do so that we can have, less risk in farming. Yes, next slide. So in the next slide, I would like to talk about, some on the hatchery issue, the hatchery management. So hatchery is actually should be like hospital, how hospitals are protected, baby ward, I mean, in the mother and children hospital, it should be like this, well protected. And here I just want to show some images that even the vehicle entry human entry, all are disinfected at the gate. And we also don't allow people who have visited farms, shrimp farms or even fish farm in last 14 days. He must a person who is working at farm or visited farm, he must quarantine or or be away from the farm for at least 2 weeks, 14 days. Then only he is allowed to enter into the hatchery premises. So we must have a separate team. We should not allow anyone, uh, you know, uh, from the farm. It is always understood that okay, boss is always clean. Boss boss doesn't carry any pathogen. No, don't give pass to anyone. We have to be strict with everyone. Yes, please, next slide. Here I want to talk a little bit about, on the live feed, especially like polychaete, or for hatchery, it's also Artemia. That now this is, I think now it is a well developed techniques, and most of the hatchery, they have their own live feed. This I want to show you some images from China, where they have like open farm for polychaete, and they have sufficient polychaete to feed their brood stock. And it's almost, we are self sufficient in polychaete production for our own you know brood stocks. Then what we have found, one more thing which I want to talk, that we have found in the hatcheries that Vibrio is transmitted by the aerosols. So we have to not only think about how to disinfect the water or incoming water, where generally ozone or UV and sometimes chlorine is used, but we also have to find the way how to disinfect the roof of the hatchery or the broodstock rooms, or on the walls, you to test how good is your hatchery or how biosecure is your hatchery. You can have a normal agar plate, either TSA or TCBS agar plate. You keep in the open area in the hatchery where your brood stock is, or where you have post larvae for half an hour, and then you bring it and keep at 25 to 30 degrees, and next day you check. If you are finding some colonies, it means that environment is contaminated, and you need to disinfect the open area inside the culture system. Yes, please. Next slide. Now, uh, on pond management, what I was talking, that our technical team have actually redefined the standard of operational procedure for shrimp culture, and we have 10 major points which have been introduced, other than what before or earlier we have been doing. This is more to to fight against white faces, EHP, and early mortality syndrome, or you can say like Vibrio infections. So first thing is that we must improve the farm layout to improve the biosecurity. In farm layout, we will discuss in detail later. Then preparation of farming area and water based on standards. So water preparation, pond preparation, all are important. And in these things, we have introduced a new product which is called EcoGuard. We are doing as a pond disinfectant. Then we have to use fries, or if we don't have our own hatchery, we have to make sure that the fry are free from all these known pathogens. Unknown we may not know, but known, you have right, because you are purchasing it, and your whole farming 4 5 months work, or hard work is, and profit is dependent on those post larvae which you are getting from a hatchery. So it's your all rights to make sure that hatchery, the babies you are getting are free from all these pathogens. They are really healthy. Once your pond is healthy, water is good, and then the babies are healthy, there is already 60 to 70% success of your crop. The rest is your management, which you will do. You will manage your ponds for next 100 days or 80 days. So we have to make sure that that babies are really healthy and free from any of the known pathogens or unknown even. Uh, Here we also have one more thing what we have strictly asked to do is to maintain the minimum oxygen dissolved oxygen level 4.5. If it is less than 4.5, then we ask to reduce the carrying capacity. So how we reduce carrying capacity when it start going, when the dissolved oxygen start going down, we have to, we what the term we call is partial harvesting. So we take out some amount of shrimp, either 20% or 30% of the shrimp, depends, how much we need to reduce, the biomass of the pond. So we have to keep the same biomass starting from 65 to 70 days of culture. We maintain that. If you think that your pond can maintain 2 ton of shrimp, then when you see that it start exceeding 2 ton, you have to take out the bigger ones. Even I have seen many farms, especially in China, they have, already they have the nets there, catching nets. So the bigger shrimp we cannot come out, a smaller one can go out from that. So they at different size, they have nets of different sizes, so it's automatically caught in every on every 3 4 days, so that can be sold in the local market. So in that basis they maintain the carrying capacity. And the second thing is about the Vibrio count. This is one of the indicators that your pond is healthy, your pond is clean or not. So here for the Vibrio, especially for the green Vibrio, if we are checking using TCBS agar, then it should be less than 1000 CFU per ml. That we maintain. And then we are using another immunomodulator to keep the health, is the pond guard. Yeah, let's go to the second slide. Next slide. So on biosecurity wise, I will go little faster. Yeah, please. So here in biosecurity, when we talk about biosecurity, it's more about the discipline, to maintain the discipline. What guideline is formed by the farm owner or the head of the farm technique team. Farmers and the sub technicians have to follow that, which we call standard operational procedure. And it should be done in the way that how to prevent the entry of pathogen. So even the entry of people should be minimized. If a farm is big, we don't allow like one person for one pond, maximum 2 ponds. So if there is any issue, it will only happen in these 2 ponds, will not transmit to other ponds. So even the equipment, when we use diometer, it must be disinfected when you measure in one pond and going to the next pond. Sometimes we think, oh, we just dipped for a few seconds, how virus will come onto it. We have to have discipline for this. Okay, it is taking time, no matter, but you are saving a lot of money and your hard work. And then the third thing, which we always discuss, is about the pond environment. Pond environment, like for us, as a human being, yes, we are advanced. You have your bedroom, you have your living room, you have your kitchen, you have your toilet, you have your bathroom. But for shrimp, it's only one. Right? There is a pond which is their everything. The pond is their bedroom, bathroom, living room, everything. So how you would like to keep your bedroom clean, or your living room clean? You think in the same way. If in one room, if in one bedroom, which is, suppose it's 15 square meter, there are two people living or 20 people living, how much is the difference? You know, when you are getting oxygen, you are getting a space to sleep, even you are using air con or fan. Yeah, we remember, you know, when we are in hostel, we always fight for the fan. It's the same thing happens in case of shrimp. So we have to think in that way, how to keep their living condition better, presuming that we are living there. Okay, next slide. So here, you know, I would like to show you some. Actually, our preparation starts from harvesting. You know, so once shrimp, you know, harvested, so there should be. I don't know. I have less idea. You know, how is the harvesting team in India? भारत में कैसा है? But यहाँ पर क्या है ना, जो जो वेल डिफाइंड हार्वेस्टिंग टीम है, वो जो उनका हमेशा जो काम है वो हार्वेस्टिंग का ही काम है। और जब इमरजेंसी कंडीशन होता है तो उसके लिए सेपरेट टीम होती है। इमरजेंसी कंडीशन मीन्स दैट इफ अ पॉन्ड गॉट WSSV, तो WSSV पॉजिटिव अगर पॉन्ड रहेगा तो उसके लिए नॉर्मल हार्वेस्टिंग टीम नहीं जाएगी, क्योंकि वो कितना भी सफाई करेंगे वो थोड़ा बहुत रहेगा ही। तो तो उसके लिए हम लोग का स्पेशल टीम होता है, जो कि हम लोग इमरजेंसी हार्वेस्टिंग टीम बोलते हैं। So depends on what kind of harvesting it is, that team will be going. तो वो जब हार्वेस्टिंग कर लेते हैं उसके बाद हम लोग पॉन्ड बॉटम क्लीनिंग करते हैं, जो कि सेकेंड थर्ड इमेज में है। एंड दैट शुड बी डन in a nice way, in the way that there should not be any shrimp residue. क्या होता है ना, जो उसके नेक्स्ट डे के बाद वो बर्ड्स आने लगेंगे, चिड़िया आने लगेगा, और वो इधर से उधर दूसरे तालाब में ट्रांसमिट करेगा। तो उसको रोकने के लिए हमें पूरी तरह से क्लीन करना पड़ेगा पॉन्ड को। और जो सेंट्रल ड्रेन है उसको पूरा साफ रखना चाहिए, इन द सेंस कि देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी लॉकेज। सो जितने जितने वेस्टेज हैं दैट शुड बी ड्रेन आउट, सो इट शुड नॉट क्रिएट, यू नो, लाइक डेड जोन इन द पॉन्ड। उसके बाद जब ये ड्राई पीरियड होता है उसके बाद देन वी स्टार्ट प्रिपेयरिंग। तो प्रिपेयरिंग में सबसे पहले, जैसा अगर HDP लाइन पॉन्ड्स है, इंडोनेशिया में 90% HDP लाइन पॉन्ड्स ही है देवतनु जी। तो इसलिए, हाँ, तो हमें ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस उसका है। तो उसका रिपेयरिंग होता है, वो पूरा पैचिंग ये सब हुआ, जो पैडल व्हील्स का चेक किया, दिस थिंग्स, देन सन ड्राइंग। सो sun is the natural disinfectant. If the pond is you know, is earthen pond, or if it is you know, like sometimes after 2-3 crops we take out the HDP and then we disinfect the, especially in the seepage area, you know, where, you know, marshy land, where, you know, water comes from down, and you may see that bubbles, you know, balloons are formed because pressure from down. So in that area we prefer to take it out, and then we use the lime all over. So these are the general preparation. Then we go to the next slide.
Yeah.
So here I would like to show you, you know, this water filtration, because you know, even you take water directly from the sea, or using you know, uh, canals or estuaries, we have to filter it. And these are the physical. Generally, we use two sizes, you know, 1 millimeter and 4 millimeter. So you can see the green one and the white one. White one is the thinner one, and green one is the thicker one. So we try to catch all these things: fish, crab, wild shrimp, everything. And then you know, then we have to take care of the birds also. So this one bird scary device should be there. Then we also have crab protection device. This also helps cats or dogs to enter. So here actually, you know, because our shrimp are exported mostly, so we have to take care of these things also, because cats and dogs, you know, or other pets, even chicken, we don't allow to go in the farm premises, to prevent from E. coli and salmonella,
Sure.
because these are mostly we found that these animals, when they come across, to the farms, uh, we may get these kind of problems, E. coli or Salmonella. So if it is detected, even one Salmonella colony detected, in export shrimp, your whole shipment will get rejected. So we have to take care of these things. Yeah, next. This is a video actually, if you can click on the left side. Yeah. So this we want to show, that how we disinfect the pond bottom. So when it is ready to fill after all the process, this is semi-line pond. So 4 meter square area is, because when you have 100% line pond, if the technician is not experienced enough, then there he may not be able to maintain the plankton fluctuation. you know the growth will be very fast, or and then at the end it will be crash. So what technicians do, they will have some earthen area to maintain this uh, population. So we disinfect with EcoGuard the whole area, sometimes 2 times if there is any history of having infection in the previous crops. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is about the, you know, uh, like when someone is entering to the farm with vehicle, especially the technicians, because one technician may taking care of several farms. So when he is passing from one farm to other farm, he must disinfect himself and also to his vehicles. So we have protection. This is a vehicle wash at the entrance. Then we have foot bath, then hand wash when you are entering to the pond. And then even some farmers, they will keep a kind of wall using feed sacks in the feed tray area or in the aeration area, so that to protect from aerosol of horizontal transmission. This is another video which is showing that the the pond is perfectly biosecured. So it's like living room is ready. Yeah, we go to the next slide. Now again, I would like to say, a technician or farm owner has to decide, because all these things are investment. So if you want to make more biosecure, you have to invest more. So there you have to see uh, how much investment you can do, and in that way, what is the best way, and what are your points which you need to secure. If you think that water is much contaminated, then you need to make more exercise on how to make water clean. If you think there are in some area there will be many birds coming, so you have to make sure that birds should not come into uh, in the ponds like that. So we have to adjust ourselves. What we are trying to show here is the overall. Then you have to adjust as per your requirement. So this is also very important thing for a technician or the consultant like you to decide, to observe and decide what actually this farm needs, what kind of improvement are required. And then we have to discuss with the farm owner how much he can invest. Right? Because generally farm owners are business people, so we have to describe them in the way, and then we can come to a common point, where we can show him benefit. Sometimes we have to give them example by just putting our model in 20 or 20% area. If he sees, yes, his technique is working, then he can expand. Okay, next year I will go 50%, then slowly 100%, like that. So it's more acceptable in that way. Yeah, next slide, please. So here I would like to talk a little bit about what actually is the, why we want to talk more on the natural or, essential oil things, because, uh, you know, this recently, uh, actually shrimp industry in Indonesia is not using antibiotics. It's banned for a long time. And, it's same like India that more than 95% of the products are exported. So we have to follow the rule regulations. But in fish industry it's still used, and what I came to know next year, it's also going to be banned. We cannot use antibiotics in the fish feed. So here little bit discussion, why, because I know, आयुर्वेद इज, हम लोग के यहाँ आयुर्वेद भी अच्छा खासा डेवलप्ड साइंस है, जहाँ की और बहुत सारे ऐसे प्रोडक्ट हैं जो नेचुरल हैं. अब इसमें जो दो तरह का बात होता है देवतानु जी, आप बोलते हैं हर्ब और फिर बोलते हैं ऑयल. अब हर्ब का क्या होता है ना, जो हर्ब मतलब घास घास फूस ऐसा बोल सकते हैं, जो डायरेक्टली यूज़ करते हैं, उसमें क्या होता है ना, जो एक स्टेबिलिटी नहीं होता. मान लीजिए वेस्ट बंगाल में तुलसी का पत्ता लिए, इसका बहुत अच्छा इफेक्ट होगा विब्रियो पे. तो हम लोगों ने बोला हाँ तुलसी का अच्छा इफेक्ट है विब्रियो पे, और हमने 1 किलो तुलसी का पत्ता डाला तालाब में, और ये बहुत अच्छा हुआ. हमारा विब्रियो लेवल हमेशा 500 CFU से नीचे था. सेम तुलसी, मतलब अब हमारा फार्मर उधर केरला में है या गुजरात में है, वो बोलेंगे अच्छा देवतानु ने ऐसा तुलसी का यूज़ किया, हम भी यहाँ तुलसी करते हैं. वो गया अपना किसी मंदिर से या कहीं से अपना घर से ऐसा इतना तुलसी लाया, ही अप्लाइड तुलसी इन द पॉन्ड, डिडंट वर्क. बोला अरे वो, अगर आप रिसर्चर तो बोलेगा वो उसने झूठा रिसर्च किया, ऐसा पब्लिश कर लिया. अगर आप कंसल्टेंट है बोलेगा जो वो उसने कुछ दूसरा चीज़ यूज़ किया होगा, तुलसी यूज़ नहीं किया होगा, इसलिए ये काम नहीं कर रहा है. अब यहाँ जो बेसिक डिफरेंस है ये आप देखिएगा, क्यों बोलते हैं जो हिमालय का जड़ी बूटी अच्छा होता है, क्योंकि देयर शुड बी, वहाँ पे जो कुछ है इस तरह का जो न्यूट्रिएंट है सॉयल में, तो उससे हम जो ये टर्पीन्स या टर्पिनॉइड्स या अल्केलॉइड्स जो आता है, जिसके कारण उस प्लांट में या फ्लावर में एंटीवायरल या एंटी बैक्टीरियल प्रॉपर्टीज आता है, दैट शुड बी इन सर्टेन अमाउंट. अब या आप ये भी बोल सकते हैं मैंने इधर 1 किलो तुलसी का पत्ता यूज़ किया, और हो सकता है गुजरात में आपको 2 किलो तुलसी का पत्ता यूज़ करना पड़े, क्योंकि जो जितना टर्पिन्स आपको यहाँ मिल रहा है 1 किलो तुलसी में, हो सकता है उधर 2 किलो तुलसी या 3 किलो तुलसी में मिलेगा. बट दैट हैव टू बी वर्क विथ यू टू गेट दैट. उसका जो दूसरा जो है प्रोडक्ट, जो आप बोलते हो ऑयल, ऑयल जिसको हमने तेल उसका निकाल लिया. अब तेल निकालने से क्या होगा ना, जितना हमें क्वांटिटी चाहिए, मान लीजिए आप लिनोलोल का बात कर रहे हैं या सेनियोल जो कि यूकेलिप्टस में है, वो अगर मुझे 2 मिलीग्राम चाहिए, तो एक्चुअली दैट इज़ 2 मिलीग्राम ऑफ सेनियोल विच इज़ वर्किंग अगेंस्ट विब्रियो. तो मुझे केवल इससे मतलब रहेगा जो उतना है कि नहीं. अब वो तेल 2 ग्राम हो या तेल 2 लीटर हो या 5 लीटर, और एक बार जो आप बोल देंगे, आप देख के बोल देंगे अच्छा ये 2 लीटर ही चाहिए, सो दैट विल बी कंसिस्टेंट ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड. उसमें आप फ्लक्चुएशन नहीं देखेंगे. नहीं तो मैं आपका रिसर्च का पेपर इंडिया से उठा के इंडोनेशिया में यूज़ करूँगा ऐसा तुलसी का पत्ता, इट्स नॉट वर्किंग. तो तो ये थोड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट समझना है हम लोगों को, इसलिए हम लोग इस पे ज़्यादा एम्फेसिस करते हैं. दूसरा जो ये है, जो ये टिश्यू में नहीं ऐसा रहेगा रेजिड्यू, जो कि हार्मफुल नहीं होगा. दूसरा इसका साइड इफ़ेक्ट्स बहुत कम है. तो देन वी कम टू द why we are working to develop product using these essential oils, because these virus or bacteria, these are present everywhere. So and it has been, जैसे हम लोग का एवोल्यूशन हुआ उस तरह से उनका भी एवोल्यूशन हो रहा है. and they are mutating. What we call mutation is the evolution, right? They are changing as per the surrounding environment. So we have to work accordingly on that. Now, when we are talking, so when we design these antimicrobial products using natural compounds, so what we see that these compounds, जैसे एक हम आप बोलिएगा तुलसी या यूकलिप्टस, इसमें एक कंपोनेंट नहीं है. दीज आर कंसिस्ट ऑफ मल्टीपल कंपोनेंट्स. हो सकता है आप जैसा गैस क्रोमेटोग्राफी करेंगे GCMS, तो आप पाएंगे जो मोर देन 200 अल्कोलॉइड्स आर देयर. तो इवन we don't know which one is working against what. We only know about few, 3-4 के बारे में जानते हैं. Then also when it is going to a human body or a shrimp body or any animal's body, then the enzymes present in our body, how it is reacting with these compounds, and probably when they are meeting each other and forming a or developing a third compound which is probably more effective, combination of these making more effective against a virus or a bacteria, or even they act as immunomodulator or immunostimulant. So you will see that you are using only one compound, but when you check the blood you can see there is rise in hemolymph or hemoglobin. You can see there is a there is a good in appetite. They have different color. Then you can also see when there is a small amount of viral infection, it can also deal with that. So it has multiple characteristics, not like antibiotics which is very specific. Yeah, we go to the second and next slide. So these are some work what we have done in hatchery. So where we have found that it is working. Yeah, next please. This is about PonGuard, which we so it works as immunomodulator when we are using in mild dose. When it is for the treatment, we have to use at treatment dose or higher dose. So it is against various diseases. This slide I want to talk. Here what we see in productivity side, we can get better productivity, almost 1 ton higher. Now here I want to show it's not only for PonGuard but in general, that when we are talking about shrimp farming, we only I see that most of the technicians or farmers, they are thinking about tonnage. Oh, last year I got 3 ton per hectare, this year I must get 5 ton per hectare. My thinking or our thinking is a bit different. We don't only think about quantity, but we also think about quality. Quality means what? Like if you are able to give a darker color shrimp, if you can see the leaf down, second, the red one, this is like which we call salmon scale, salmon grading scale. So it is like from 15 to 32. So higher the grade, darker the color after boiling. So if for example, if 23 grade 23 is you can sell about $5 per kg. If it is 28 or 30 grade, you can sell $7 per kg. So even if you are harvesting 2 ton of your crop, but if the color grade is better, then you are earning same amount or better amount than the person who harvested 5 ton or 10 ton. So this I want to emphasize, that we should think about the how to produce quality shrimp, especially when you are thinking to sell especially in China now. Then it's also about the head, which I will show image later on. We go to the next slide. Yeah, this is about this slide. I want to talk a little bit about probiotics. Like generally we think that probiotics is like antibiotics, or it's a solution. Actually, probiotics is a good bacteria, right? We all know, and it's competitive exclusion. Now, what in simple language, what we understand competitive exclusion, that there is a pond or there is a room. Okay, we are sitting in a meeting room. There are 10 chairs. Okay, in that meeting room there are 10 chairs, which 10 आदमी का बैठने का जगह है. अब अब उसमें 10 आदमी का बैठने का जगह है, कोई भी आके बैठ सकता है. तो मान लीजिए उस 10 में से 5 अच्छे लोग आके बैठ गए, 5 बुरे लोग आके बैठ गए. बुरे लोग ऐसा बदमाश होते हैं, वो पूरा वातावरण खराब कर देंगे. अब उसमें आप क्या कीजिएगा, अगर आप अच्छे ऑर्गेनाइजर हैं, आपका मैनेजमेंट स्किल अच्छा है, आप पहले से ही पूरा 10 कुर्सी अच्छे लोगों से भर देंगे. तो जब बुरा लोग आएंगे बाद में, उनका बैठने का जगह ही नहीं रहेगा, तो वो या तो वो उतना देर खड़ा नहीं रह पाएंगे, या देख के वापस चले जाएंगे. तो जो हमारा तालाब है उसमें जो अच्छे लोग हैं, दैट इज़ योर प्रोबायोटिक्स. जो बुरे लोग हैं वो आप विब्रियो बोल सकते हैं या एनी अदर बैक्टीरिया. अब इसमें क्या होता है, जो दूसरा जो हम लोगों ने देखा है जो प्रॉब्लम होता है, जो जनरली जो प्रोबायोटिक सेलर हैं वो सीधा आपको आके बोलेंगे कि जो आप 5 किलो प्रति हेक्टेयर के दर से आप अप्लाई कीजिए. ठीक है, वो हो सकता है ऑप्टिमम डोज हो, बट हम लोगों के हिसाब से ये क्या है ना, आपको देखना होगा जो पैथोजन लोड कितना है, किस लिए आप, क्योंकि प्रोबायोटिक्स भी है वो भी स्पेसिफिक है, वो टारगेटेड है. आप विब्रियो कम करने के लिए प्रोबायोटिक्स डालते हैं, या आप कीचड़ को कम करने के लिए डालते हैं, ऑर्गेनिक लोड को कम करने के लिए डालते हैं. सो दैट यू हैव टू सी हाउ मच लोड इज
Sir,
देयर.
please use English to explain.
Okay.
Sir, please.
So request is to speak in English or in Hindi.
English.
English.
Please.
English.
So okay, so so here we have to see that how much is the requirement and what is the target of the probiotics which we are going to use. One probiotics cannot solve all the problems. These are specific, target specific, so that you have to consult with your with your technician or your or the selling person who is selling probiotics to you, what is targeted to. And then you have to, it's better you check your pond condition, how much is the really effective or not. If he is telling you 5 kg per hectare you should use, you have to see that when you are applying 5 kg, it is reducing the load of Vibrio, if it is targeting to Vibrio or not. Then you also need to check, or you ask him to help you to check that how long this probiotics is survived in that environment. Whether if that probiotics is able to survive in this pond water or not. That also is a factor. For Bacillus you can check easily because it can form a spore. So these things are which we need to understand, and we need to check. So in that way what we'll do, you will use the correct dose. Suppose your pond only requires 2 kg instead of 5 kg, then why you will apply 5 kg? Right? Anything, even मीठा खीर ज़्यादा खाने से भी खराबी करता है. So why we should utilize. Then on the other side, what you can see that good bacteria versus bad bacteria. So if there is one Vibrio, you need 100 any probiotics, 100 CFU to neutralize that. Because what happens that these bad elements, so-called, take example of Vibrio, what I told earlier also, it multiplies in every 20 minutes. But the good bacteria, if we take example of Bacillus, it multiplies in 6 hours. So 20 minutes versus 6 hours, So how to compensate, how to make it competitive? अगर आप हाथी को चूहा से लड़ने के लिए बोलेंगे तो चूहा तो कभी नहीं जीत पाएगा ना. तो आपको चूहा इतना क्वांटिटी में रखना पड़ेगा जो कि वो हाथी को दबा सके. So this we have to work. Probiotics is very good, and most of the time what we see that our farmers will say, oh, we don't see any difference using or not using probiotics. Yes, because we are not using it in the right way. So we have to show smartness in this. And then we always have to remember it's a tool. It will not give you any solution. It will help you to solve any issues if you are using it smartly. Yeah. So here is the same thing, which I want to show you. Um, like it's the same cultured pond. There is stressful condition, then there is failure of cultivation. If there is healthy condition, then it's a successful harvest. So it's the management, how you are managing. Actually, I had one slide which I could not find. In that, we had like the same, both the ponds, two ponds were infected by WSSV, with the low dose of virus. It was log 2, minimum lethal dose is log 3 when shrimp start getting infected or diseased. Less than that, it may carry, and shrimp's own defense mechanism can fight against that. So two ponds are infected or carrying virus at low dose. One pond is lucky, got the better technician who is following the good management practice. The second one didn't follow, and his pond got stressful. So it gave more space for virus to replicate, and there was a failure in this pond. But this pond got success at the end. It got profit. Okay, not 100% profit, but it got the money back. So this is all about how you are managing. Here in this is our one of the farms layout, one module layout. So you can see this side, on the right hand side, main inlet. Water is the yellow line. Yeah, that is the main inlet. Water is coming from the sea. Then we have this 30 to 40% area, which is which is quarantine, then sediment pond, and then reservoir. So here we we keep water for almost a week, to make it not sterilize, disinfect, and also healthy. And then we use sub inlet to pass it into the ponds. So these green ones, square ones are the ponds, and the middle one is the supply canal, which where the good water, healthy water is running. Then on the other side, you can see a small blocks. These are the farmers or technicians' house. So one technician or one farmer family is living at the farm, at the pond, and taking care of that pond. And then on the dark green is the sub outlet. So water from central drain is drain out. And then it is going to the main outlet, and from there to the area where it will be sedimented and disinfected, and then finally discharged. So even in our new SOP, we are giving very much emphasis on having the reservoir, because reservoir is helping to slow down the rate of pathogen growth, and it works as a buffer zone between your culture area and the wild, or wild environment. So here actually you can stabilize your water. Even in some area, people are using, are culturing fish to reduce the load of virus and bacteria. Depends which fish is available in that area, they're using it. Yeah, next slide. This is about sustainable farming. So to maintain carrying capacity, what I discussed a little bit before, pond infrastructure. So we have to keep on maintaining, pond infrastructure, and then from there we have to understand that now, 1-year-old pond, 5-year-old pond, and 20 years old pond, productivity will reduce. Either we improve their productivity or we expect less from them. So we have to think in both the ways. So here, what I discussed before, that we have to emphasize on the carrying capacity, and to maintain carrying capacity, we have to increase the oxygen level, and also we have to do partial harvesting, to maintain it. So when you see that, if we know this is the our threshold limit, 5 ton of this pond, if it is exceeding or going to exceed 5 ton, you take out 10%, 20% of the shrimp, you know, like that, the bigger size one. Then this two-step farming is also to get the, you know, crop faster. So nursery system, especially in EMS prone area, when you talk about Thailand, Vietnam, nursery farming has developed much more. And as per concept, you can get actually five times crop compared to two or three, two and a half in the normal farming when you are doing nursery farming. So it's more profitable. Yeah, you need to invest, but you need, uh, you know, now one more thing is there. Everyone may not have nursery farm because it's again an investment. So what farmers do, they will request to the hatchery, and hatchery will grow, instead of PL post larvae 10, he may grow up to post larvae 20 or 25, you know, much longer. So your hatchery become hatchery plus nursery, and then hatchery will sell, because that is cost also, right? So hatchery will estimate the cost and accordingly can provide you at bigger size. I'm not sure how, you know, how this could go, but that is the way in which, if a farmer is not able to have nursery, then hatchery can also convert some parts into nursery, and then can provide bigger size of PL. So that will reduce the disease incidence or prevalency. Yeah. Also, like in Indonesia, you will see recently that most of the farms have converted into a small units. Like previously, we had 2,500 square meter ponds or 5,000 square meter. 1 hectare is 10,000 square meter, huh? So like that, smaller. Now it is much smaller, 1,000 square meter to 2,000 square meter, 2,000 square meter का एक तालाब इस तरह का. It's easy to maintain, and even if there is disease, only that part will get infected. You still have other crops. So now you can have like at least 6 to 7 ponds in 1 hectare, and then the rest will be your, a reservoir like that. Yeah, next slide. Oh, this is a farming system which actually is more popular in Thailand area, where almost 60 to 70% of the farm area is converted into reservoir, and 30% is the farming. But how do they compensate? They compensate with by increasing the stocking density. So the final harvest, will be even better than that than the normal one. And what you see that biosecurity is a key in this kind of farming system. It also reduces the total culture period in the bigger farm, in the bigger ponds. But what you have to invest is on the water cleaning or water exchange. That is the key. And aeration is very high here. Yeah, next slide. Now this one, is a super intensive system. This is actually when you talk about super intensive system, I'm not sure. मुझे लगता है भारत में अभी किसी ने शुरू नहीं किया है ना. मुझे पता नहीं पिछले 2 साल से ये ज़्यादातर even in Indonesia we don't have much. It's more popular in Thailand, in central part of Vietnam, and in China. In China, it's very, very popular because China is very cold, especially when you go to central and northern part of China, across east coast, so where temperature goes below 30 degrees, but there will be shrimp in the because once you have the closed house, temperature may go down to 5 to 7 degrees, or even sometimes they use heater. So they can have shrimp farming in the cold region. Here, it's much more biosecure, and and the final stocking density is almost like 600 to 7 pieces per square meter. So you will feel like it's like really a bigger hatchery where you just put your hand and you can get
Mm.
this much of shrimp. You will really enjoy that. And uh, you know uh, risk is high, but the profit is also very high. Most of the farms where they use a recirculating aquaculture system there, Ras, so they don't have to use too much outside water. And the again, the important thing in this is that China imports shrimp from India, which is headless, from Indonesia also headless, some shrimps from Thailand, which is like head on. But the shrimps which is produced in China, most of the shrimps in China, produced in China, are sold live. So these shrimps are sold live, either to Qingdao city or to Beijing or to Guangzhou or to Shanghai, all sold live. So the biggest difference, Deptanu, is that when it is a dead shrimp, you are getting it $5 to $6 per kilo. But when it is live, you can get $13 to $15 per kilo. So a farmer don't mind to invest you know more in that, because he can provide, he's able to provide year round live shrimp. Even live shrimp market in Singapore is quite lucrative, and most of the live shrimp are supplied from Malaysia to Singapore. There, it's about 15 to 16 Singapore dollar per kilo. And restaurants will come to your farm, pick up, and then bring. So even you don't have to worry how, when it arrive to the to the restaurant or to the place, it will be live or not. You don't have that tension. So this also we have to think, how we can develop this kind of market in India when we are talking about this kind of systems. So we also have to find the market where we can sell. Suppose if we are doing this kind of culture system, then our per rupiah, per rupees cost of production will be higher. Then how you can compensate that to get more profit? So we have to find that kind of market where we can sell or develop our product. Because here a farmer can get almost like 80 to 110 ton per hectare in the area wise production is like that. So you can see on the left side it looks like hatchery, but you can say, oh, there is like 200 to 300 ton shrimp is produced in one house there. The image on the left side, so it's like that. Okay, next slide. This is again, like on the left upper side and the down one on the left side. These are the same open ponds, but farmer has covered it. So it is a open pond but covered. So it is not inside the house, but it is covered here. So there will be like either 1.5 meter height from the pond. It is like it is covered with the terpal or other uh, cheap. This is like cheap investment, not high investment. So it is like that. On the right side, there are some other highly intensive farms. You can see some glimpses. It looks like hatchery. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, these are the shrimps. This I wanted to show you one recirculating aqua system in the super intensive farm. And on the right lower side is the different plankton or diatoms, because these are all are inside. So there will be no natural food growing by itself. So a farmer has to inoculate, at different time interval, either on weekly basis or in 3-4 days, have to inoculate this plankton so that shrimp will have natural food also. Yeah, next slide. Then this is like ultrafiltration system. This has been developed in Thailand. This is, to make sure that not even a single spore of EHP or single colony of bacteria is there. So it's a high investment. I think it's almost like $6 million for 100-hectare farm. Have, to make sure that water is crystal clean. And so even on the right hand side down, you can see that it's the farms, the ponds are almost like house, completely covered, and no one is allowed except the technician to visit those ponds. Yeah, next slide. Now this one, I now from highly intensive farms, I'm coming down to lower. Just one example. This is about the mixed farming on tilapia. So we had, after IMNV issue in our farms in 2008, 2009, we have started working. What are the, what are the species, or what are the, farming system which can help us to fight against IMNV. So we found that tilapia was a very good source. And the thing is that tilapia is having very wide body, and it has the defense mechanism. The skin of tilapia contains toll-like receptor 3. So this toll-like receptor 3 can detect double stranded RNA virus, which is IMNV, as enemy. So what we saw, that when there was tilapia and free IMNV, IMNV was degenerating much faster, and within 2 weeks we can see that the level of IMNV in the free water, in the water, was going down. Compared to that, when there was no tilapia, the same amount of IMN virus you can get up to 60 days, 65 days. So even you harvested, you are stocking again, and IMNV is already there welcoming you. Your shrimp, okay, come, I will kill you. So what we see in case of tilapia, there is, you can see from the data that when there is tilapia, there is only 100 CFU. When there is shrimp, you can see 1200 CFU of green vibrio, and when they are together is 500 CFU. So it is showing us that there is tilapia has a major role in reducing the vibrio load also. On the upper one, you can see, yeah. Now this part I would like to to show it to like how farmers are working on, and what is their role, the technician or farmer. So farmer, what we discussed before, that we have to maintain the biosecurity standards. Don't allow anyone to whom you suspect, or he is coming from other farms, even he is your close friend, or even he is superior to you, you have to restrict him or her to enter. Then you always check your shrimp from the not only from the feed tray, but you try to get shrimp from the dead zones. What we do actually in our ponds, we keep one feed tray in the center, or the dead zone which is identified, and we check shrimp condition there. And even if you find that shrimps are very good, but when you get dead zone shrimp from dead zone, you will see that there are disease or indicator. So that tray will work as an indicator. So these things, always rely on feed tray is not a good idea. Healthy shrimps will come to have food there, right? So they are healthy. When the situation is already 30 or 40% worse, then you can see some infected shrimp in the feed tray. So to have the real indication, you need something to put in the pond in the dead zone area where oxygen level is very low, or the movement of water is not there. And second, like always check the water quality. Then the third part, which I want to show on the lower left side, is about the telson of the shrimp. It's very good for us to study. You know, when you see it is healthy condition, it will be normal. If you see the telson is becoming pulpy, you know, gaddedar, it means that it is infected. Either high vibrio load or any other problem is there. Even the color, you see this telson is having greenish color. It means it is not a stress. If it is having reddish, you can see some shrimp having reddish, or even the rostrum, you know, the rostrum area is reddish, it means it is a stress. So these are the primary indicators which you can, you know, take into account to check in your checklist. Then the second image what I have put are the two shrimps head. One is reddish, one is actually the brownish or blackish. So this actually happens due to the, you know, either red plankton and green, you know, brown and green plankton presence. But what we see, if the number of red head shrimps are more and you cook it, there will be hepatopancreas burst. And when a farmer or a you know, producer is thinking about selling you know, head on, especially head on shrimp, then this will be a very you know, big thing to consider. Most, like 90% of the shrimp which is having this red colored hepatopancreas will burst when you cook it, and then it will look so ugly. I didn't want to put that photo. It will look so ugly that if it is in your plate, you will not eat it. You know, so when any buyer coming to India and he will say, "Oh, I want to have head-on vanamai," you know, he will cook by himself at your farm to check whether it has hepatopancreas blast or not. So these things also we have to see, and you see if it is not there, then you can even promote your shrimp to sell as head on, you know, which will give you, you know, head is like 30% extra, you know, weight. So you can have better margin or better profit when you have head on sale. Yeah. Next slide. Then we, you know, like these kind of talk shows or seminars or even publication, we as a group, we always do this to you know, to upgrade ourselves, to let us know, you know, to upgrade our knowledge, and also to our customers, to our you know, uh, to our technicians. So this is also very important to sharing knowledge, you know. So we keep on upgrading ourselves. It's in Bahasa Indonesia, so you may not be able to read it. Yeah, next slide. This next slide is also about, the first one was about hatchery and second one is about disease on the in the farm side. And this I want to show, you know, about the new hopes. Like these two you know, young boys, their parents started shrimp farming, and this is the second or third generation, you know, and they have, you know, graduated from very reputed universities like Cornell University and they came back and they are helping and thinking about the farming system, you know, and they have very big contribution in having super intensive farming system, converting from, you know, from traditional farming to the next level of farming system. So it is becoming, you know, farming is becoming industry. And that is because of, you know, a generation like you guys who are really taking it, you know, to the business level. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Because you have addressed the session not only about you know, about the perspective of sustainable shrimp farming, and also you try to address it on to bigger way how we can take it in the next level. So I have few questions for you. Maybe these questions also will connect to the speakers, because we cannot take everyone questions at the moment, but I like to request whoever the listening to us can directly communicate us. We'll be connecting sir also with your questions later on. My first question is, somebody asks, like, regarding the shrimp nursery management, is it a good advisable to go with biofloc kind of system or RAS kind of system exclusively for nursery management process for shrimp?
Oh, like for nursery level or for hatchery level, what we call is semi-biofloc,
Yeah.
so that we are generally practicing. So when you call, 100% biofloc, it's a kind of very unstable environment, and there you need to have very high level of oxygen, because they need, consistently high level of oxygen. And if there by any chance there is drop in oxygen, then the whole crop is gone, because it collapse. This biofloc get collapsed. RAS is much better in the way that you need to make sure that, because RAS is more like you are reusing the water, right? So it is good, especially in the area where you think that availability of good water, good water quality source is scarce. You cannot get much water. Then it is a good thing. We have to, we get water even in some area, where people are not sure. They use even artificial water. They get concentrate water, especially in the paddy fields area of Thailand. They get highly saline concentrate water, like 200 ppt or 250
Yeah.
ppt they get. And they make it diluted and use as a recirculating system. So recirculating system could be open or closed. It depends on, again, our investment, but the concept is same.
And another question, sir, I like to address. Most of the Indian shrimp farmers who are doing the shrimp farming, they are into acid sulfate soil, because they cut down the mangrove, they make their shrimp ponds there. And when they started, maybe first crop, the second crop is good, they got good yield also. And then later on, they have lots of issues of vibrio and many kind of diseases. And I can give you a very exclusive example of Orissa. There's a place called Astarang, and there are more than 200 hectares area where mangrove now cultivated into shrimps, but they are always face lots of diseases outbreak for these many reasons, maybe the water source or maybe this acid sulfate soil aspects. As an expert point of view, what kind of management procedures can be taken to control these acid sulfate soil aspects, sir?
If you ask me, what I see, what we do here, we just cover it with the line.
Okay, okay, okay.
So
That's
there is
the
no
there is no
easiest way.
contamination part and all. Okay, fine, fine. And
Correct.
another also, sir, I like to address regarding nutrition aspects, means like the feed. You talk about more on management, you talk about good healthy baby shrimps, you also talk about good healthy end product shrimps. Regarding the feed management and feeding management, we face lots of issues. We have lots of very good brand of feeds, but the problem comes with the farmer due to lack of technical ideas, or maybe lack of technical advices. They become more greedy. They like always dump more feeds, thinking they will get more shrimps. Okay, so management aspect regarding the feeding aspect, if you just highlight little bit, sir. What kind of feeding management you follow up?
Yeah, our feeding management is actually very strict, and technicians are not allowed to play with that. They have to follow it strictly. And it's some of the technicians, even they underfeed. in the way that, you know, they will always, if it is like you have to give like 100 kg per day, then they may give only 90 or 80 kg, and then they see you know, how much feed is remaining in the feed tray. So generally in one pond there will be 3 feed trays, and from there, that is the first indicator to see. Second thing, you know, also this automatic feeder is getting very popular, and we can see a significant difference between you know, manual feeding and automatic feeding. One, in terms of like, you don't have to have one extra labor
Yeah.
who have to feed, so you reduce cost there. And then shrimp always, you know, because by nature, Deptanu, you know that
Yeah.
shrimp is hunter. It's like tiger, right? They like to hunt fresh food. So when feed is coming frequently and falling, you know, they will always have feel like a fresh uh, food is coming, and they like to eat fresh food. So automatic feeder is good in that way also, because when we go for manual feeding, maximum 4 or 5 times, if even at night some farms they do 5 times feeding will be there. But when we go for you know, automatic feeder, it goes like 20 times a day, you know. So
True.
but one thing we have to consider when we talk about automatic feeder, if there is IMNV issue in that farm or in that area, but don't use automatic feeder, because automatic feeder means when the feed is broadcasted or thrown, shrimps go, and that actually brings the stress, you know. So if it is IMNV infected, you may find mortality, and you know, slowly there will be. So automatic feeder is not successful in this kind of disease condition when there is IMNV, but other than that is quite successful.
Okay.
And then you know, we have to, you know, we have to also see that what species you are culturing. Even, you know, Vaname, what we see that we have different suppliers of you know, brood stock, and then their growth capacity. Like there is Jumbo, which is fast growing, there is Hardy line. So we have to take consultancy with the supplier of brood stock or hatchery, that what kind of feed is good for them. So yeah, again, you know, you need to adjust as per your you know, as per your animal. Like if you are driving Mercedes, you need to fuel Mercedes oil rather than Maruti oil.
True.
Or even so we have to adjust. All
Sir,
feed is good, no,
yeah,
no feed is
okay,
bad.
okay. Sir, one more questions you have addressed very
I
nicely.
just want to add one more thing, you know, just one more thing. Like
Yeah,
there was one experiment long back conducted by us, and that there we saw, you know, that even when the protein content is about 18%, so we didn't see any significant difference between 18% to 36% protein, you know, in the growth in the ponds. But when it comes to nursery, there you need to provide much proteinous feed, where we may go up to 52, 54%. But when in the grow out ponds, there is not much difference. So it's like how you are feeding, what time you are feeding, that matters a lot.
okay.
So again, it's not the quality, it's not the quantity, it's the quality.
And also the management tips, the way you take it forward.
Yeah.
Sir, another questions you have very nicely addressed about, you know, tulsi and the oil. Okay, most of the time our farmers, we think buying, maybe say example for a fish, buying say mustard oil cake, groundnut oil cake, DORB, punching together, make my own feed my fish. Okay, and somebody go with a pelleted feed. So the concept which you brings out here is about essential oil and its role in basically in the immuno system and the immunomodulator function and the immunospecific actions also oriented by the oils. Such kind of, I think, innovations is not yet done in Indian shrimp farming industry, I think, but mostly we are into lots of herbal plant extract based product than plant oil based product yet to become in India. So in that aspects, what is your suggestions maybe for the industry who are into exclusive on shrimp farming, or also the farmers who are also doing shrimp farming in a corporate kind of structure.
What I would say, that, I'm in contact with Dr. Manoj Sharma,
Sure.
on the Western side, and he has been, working with us for last 2-3 years, and uh, we have some results from him that it's working well when we talk about natural oils. So it's doing good in that area. Now, how to, there is another thing, when it comes to herb,
Mm,
the general mindset is that it's very cheap.
mm,
So most of the farmers, they try to use herb because the thing is very cheap and easily available. They will go to local market, get
mm,
वो उधर से garlic ले आएंगे, turmeric ले आएंगे, and they will mix. And so there actually they have to see, again, that it is but it's really hard to say, that I think our institutions have to come up to standardize and optimize these things. Because, the same thing, that tulsi or even turmeric in Odisha may not be same as, if someone is getting from Punjab. So these things, and India is really vast country. अपना देश बहुत बड़ा है. So we need to work on this. And there are many scientists actually who are actually 100% devoted, to work on herbs, like especially I think Dr. Chitarsu. Then I forgot his name. He retired last year from Tamil Nadu. Um, so him who have developed anti-WSSV formula using grass, Cynodon,
mhm,
Dactylon.
mhm, mhm.
So there are people who actually are working intensively. But
Research are
what I
going on. Research are
yeah, so
going on,
that
but the
I
commercial level has to become.
yeah, that has to, so that I see. And recently, I was participating in some of these kind of meetings where always discuss that there is a big gap between industry and
Mm,
and institution do their own work, and industry is dealing by their own,
mm,
most of the time. I'm not telling,
mm,
so here we have to come to one understanding, and we have to work on industry or need based research, what we call need based research. And then these things, because on herb side, or on natural remedy wise, I think India has the best resources, which is
yeah,
underutilized in
yeah.
that case.
And sir, at the last, not the least, I just like to sum up the 3 best ideas you want to give to the shrimp farmers they can follow up in coming days, in terms of maybe the management aspects, in terms of their end product management, and also the things they are following up. The 3 best idea from your side.
I think you would be the best guy to say that, because you are seeing them. Actually, I'm a bit unfortunate, I
No,
don't
actually,
have.
maybe sir, the way you have addressed one aspect was marketing aspects, like the way you were telling people are coming direct to the farms, the restaurants are coming direct to the farms, they are getting it. In India, we don't have that channel, so that marketing has to be strong enough. And also I think the domestic market aspect also needs to be focused more in India than the international market, because whenever we have issues of COVID, our shrimp farmers, they face lots of issue of losses. So domestic market has to be tightened up. And also the way you have addressed management aspects, starting from farm assistant, farm manager, to the owner and the end user. The biosecurity aspect needs to be, I think, very strictly followed up. And our effluents, the water from my farm to your farm to another farm, needs to be under very close observation and circulations, because those ways we actually spread disease in many areas. And we are in a great industry, and I hope like people like you spending the time of almost the dinner time in Indonesia now, you join with us and spend your time with us and share your valuable experience working with CP Prima company, which lead in the most of the Southeast Asian big projects on the aspects. We wish you best of luck, sir, from all of us, and also we hope in coming days we'll also get your lots of ideas and supports to bring changes among our shrimp farmers' mind and thinking with your leadership and supports in a long way, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining with us.
It's always a privilege, to talk with all our friends and colleagues. Yeah, you are right. One thing, that inlet of one is the outlet of other farm. So this we have to think. And what we see when, like most of the big farms, suppose our CP farm, we are committed, and we have to, we become more responsible in that way. We have to maintain it. But what I see, it's not happening in the same way with the smaller, with the smaller farmers. Even when you talk about standard procedure, like a farmer, a pond should not use any antibiotics. I just take one example. What we see that the small farmers, I will not tell that they are doing it intentionally, but it is mostly because they don't know what are the impact. But when shrimp is brought to the processing plant, all shrimps are mixed, right? Either it is farm A from farm B or farm C. So mistake of one or unawareness of one is killing your whole 20-ton container. So these things, and most of the time what we feel, it happened unintentionally, as farmer didn't know that there will be residue of that antibiotics. It is just an example. And it will harm them. So this kind of awareness for the people like you, you are there to create this kind of awareness, it's really important. And then finally, because Vaname is the one, or even fish, it always gives profits. Then it depends on how much a farmer is willing to upgrade his farm himself, not only his farm but also himself, by knowledge and equipment. This also depends, how much he is willing to invest, time and money both.
Yeah.
Okay,
we are
sir.
Always there to support. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much from Aquadoctor Solution and AOC Kolkata. And also in coming Sunday, we'll also have another session with another speaker from NFDB. We'll be talking about Northeast and its scope for venture and exploration in fisheries. So he'll be addressing in the next Sunday, and hope everyone will be joining us also like today. And our session of this whole talk will be also available on YouTube channel. Aquadoctor Solution is our YouTube channel name. And thanks once again to Rajiv sir. Sir spent a huge time and talking almost more than 1.5 hours time addressing with us. And we hope in coming days also you will also get some sort of idea basically on aqua mimicry, which is also going on very big way in Thailand and Southeast Asia, which is not yet ventured in India. And we also try to get your one lecture on that aspect in coming days, sir.
We'll try.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Bye.